To be authentic is to present your true self to the world every day. But we are not inherently born this way. We are socially conditioned by society, family, and friends of who they think we should be until we decide to do the work of self-discovery. Some people tend to be more self-aware than others, like myself, who grow into their authentic nature over time. Some people also use social identifiers, such as race, class, sex, and even sexual orientation to mask their vulnerabilities because they're afraid of being rejected. This is why people keep secrets. Julie Beck wrote an article which states that the average person is keeping 13 secrets right now. 5 out of the 13 secrets kept, they've never told another living soul. Can you imagine the weight of carrying one secret, let alone 5? The effects of long-term secrecy can affect your authenticity. I learned this over time because I was keeping a secret of my own. I am an 80s baby and a 90s kid. I come from a 2-parent home where I had structure, love, support. I am an only child, and before you all start judging me, I am what I like to call, quote unquote, good spoiled. My parents gave me all of their attention. I wanted for nothing, and I had the best birthday parties. But my parents conditioned me with home training, which is an old school term from the Black community, which means Black children are expected to abide by a strict code of conduct. Bottom line, I knew not to publicly embarrass my parents. I was an obedient child, and I really hated being in trouble. So there was this one rule that really stuck out to me. I remember my mom telling me, Porscha, what goes on in this house stays in this house. I took this rule to heart because it meant maintaining our privacy as a family. I remember being 7 years old when I was first questioned about my home by my classmates. Now these kids were like mini reporters. They'd ask, so where is your dad? Why is it that we only see your mom and auntie? The article by Beck says, keeping secrets produces stress, which translates physically. For me, due to the pressure, I'd begin to panic. My palms would get sweaty. My heart would start to race. On the outside, I did my best to put on a good poker face as I delicately navigated the situation by lying to protect my home. So I'd reply, you know what? You see, my dad, he's a detective, and he goes out of town a lot, so that's why you never see him. But see, what they didn't know is that I had never met my father. I was being raised by mommy and mama. Using the word auntie in the Black community can reference a couple of things. It could mean, your mother or father's biological sister, or it could mean a really close female family friend. But for me, in my house, it was code for mom. Mommy and auntie were terms that were interchangeable and used depending upon who we saw, whether it was their coworkers or my parents' friends. Now, my parents never told me to lie. They didn't have to. This was the early 90s, the era of being seen and not heard. And violence against the LGBTQIA community was at an all-time high. The rejection of gays and lesbians by the dominant heteronormative or straight culture reinforced fitting in. So the cost of not keeping our secret could have meant discriminatory or even violent consequences for us. At the age of 13, I risked exposing our secret to our community by way of our local radio station, KJLH. The DJ asked our predominantly Black listening audience to call in to the following question: are gays and lesbians fit to raise children? The degrading responses I heard inspired me to call in. They believed that only straight people were capable of raising children. They thought if same-sex parents raised kids, they'd either be sexually confused or dysfunctional. Now that pissed me off because they were speaking my truth, my story, and they were absolutely clueless. Despite the risk, I asked my mommy if I could call in. And once I was on air, I expressed that I was raised with morals and manners. I was a 4.0 honor student. I wasn't confused about my sexuality. I knew I liked boys. But more importantly, good and bad kids are not determined based off of their parents' sexuality. Good parents, regardless of sexual orientation, know that unconditional love and support produces productive adults into society. And I remember having a split-second decision to decide whether to fully embrace my authenticity or to not by revealing my identity. I chose to stand by my truth. I revealed my name and the school I attended. Once I got off the phone, I felt so free and powerful. There was this weight that had been lifted off of my shoulders. In this moment is when I realized my voice mattered. Even if it fell on deaf adult ears, it was important for me to voice my opinion out loud. Moving forward into my young adult and teen years, I used discretion on who was worthy of my truth and who wasn't. Research suggests that people feel that they're being less authentic when they're not being open and honest in their relationships. As a 30-something-year-old adult, again, I began unpacking my authenticity. I remember going out on dates, and I would try to discern whether or not my date was homophobic, because what would be the point of telling him that I am the product of a lesbian household? Kind of be more like, check please, next. But even with my closest girlfriends, I noticed that they would continuously use the terms of mom and auntie. And what bothered me most is that I didn't correct them. So I began to question myself. Why did I choose to continue to navigate these situations in this way? I realized I was experiencing the effects of long-term secrecy. During this deeply polarizing time in our society, it is more important than ever to do the work of self-discovery, which leads to living an authentic life. No longer is it a time to fit in. Now is the time to fully embrace your uniqueness. Embodying authenticity is a process. It is not as black and white as people make it seem. It is complex and full of gray areas. And it is okay to live in the gray. Because guess what? You're not alone. I've learned to be forgiving and show myself unconditional love when I am not being my full, authentic self. As I evolve, I also remind myself to be fully present and embrace who I am in the moment. The power of choice is free will. So for those of you watching, What will you choose? Continue living in secrecy or embody the fullness of living authentically? Thank you.